It's car con carne. Let's eat in the car. It's car con carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
And welcome to Car Con Carne. I'm James Van Alstyne. The show tonight sponsored by our friends at Siren Records McHenry. How much do I love Siren Records McHenry? I'll tell you how much. I don't live anywhere near Siren Records McHenry, and it's probably my most visited place of the past 12 months during the pandemic. The old stuff, they've got it locked down. The jazz section is as good as anything I've seen. Punk rock section. The new stuff is great. I mentioned last week, I got a copy of the original Rosemary's Baby soundtrack on vinyl, which to me was one of my soundtrack holy grails. The longer I spend in the store, the more time I spend browsing, really the more trouble I get in. Check it out for yourself, Siren Records McHenry. And speaking of vinyl, which I find myself doing a lot these days, old Car Con Carne friend, Smoking Pope's frontman, Josh Caterer, releases this album this week. It is Josh Caterer's solo debut, The Hideout Sessions, recorded at the Hideout during the pandemic. This is just fantastic. A lot of old standards, some Smoking Pope's favorites, and liner notes. Yes, liner notes written by me, Josh Caterer, The Hideout Sessions. Sure, you can stream it, but it's way more fun to have the vinyl or the CD in your hand. Let's be real. Tomorrow night on this show, it's a double feature. Mark Malnati, the owner of Lou Malnati's, will be joining me as Lou celebrates 50 years of being in the restaurant business and serving us pizza. Also, Cleveland Avenue, a local pop punk band that I've just fallen in love with. Both those guests will be on in separate episodes tomorrow night. And before we launch into tonight's episode, I do want to thank everyone who voted in the Chicago Reader's Best of 2020 annual issue. I was named Best Podcast Host runner-up. I'm incredibly grateful. It's an honor just to be nominated. And I do want to congratulate Chicago Reader senior writer Ben Jarafsky for his win. Chicago Reader's Best of 2020. Thank you for your support. Let's move on to tonight's guest. He is an audio titan. He is Dennis Tousana. He is an owner at Soundmine Studios, which is 15 years old. Is that right?
Roughly about 14, closer to 14.
So is it fair to say, I mentioned this in the text that went along with this on social media, is Soundmine the last jazz studio in town?
Oh, I don't know if I would say that. There's other people that do jazz, but it's my favorite. So,
well, let's start there. Let's talk about some of the artists who've rolled through there. I mean, looking at the list on the Soundmine webpage, Rhymefest has been there, Otis Clay, Darius Hampton, and a handful of guests who've been on my show, Fort Francis, Billy Branch, Hidden Hospitals, The Lucky Dutch. It's an incredible cross-section of culture and music that's been walking through those doors.
Yeah, I pride myself in doing all types of music, and I've always been the type of person, I mean, I do have a favorite. Like I said, I do enjoy recording jazz and working with jazz players, but I've always been of the mindset that if somebody is excited about what they're doing, I'm ready to record you. I mean, I don't care if it's a polka band and you're excited about what you do, I'm all over it.
So tell me about some sessions that left a mark on you, those ones that when you reminisce about the past 14 years, what are some of those moments where you thought, I can't believe I'm in this room?
Well, you mentioned Billy Branch. That was pretty cool, being able to hang out with him. And we didn't do anything all that outrageous, but it was cool just to have him in the room. And I also get the chance to work with, I don't know if you're familiar with this name, Tom Washington.
I'm not.
Well, Tom is a writer and arranger here in Chicago, and he's been around forever. And he has done, for instance, Earth, Wind and Fire, Phil Collins, Minnie Riperton. And, he's a writer and arranger that's been doing great stuff for, longer than I've been in the business. But I've been working with him for about, 25, 30 years overall.
I bet he's got some great stories.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'd love to hear some of those old Earth, Wind, and Fire stories.
I've never even heard them before, so it's hard to say where they're at, or I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't like to talk about them.
So going back to what you were saying about the types of artists who record there, I mean, people who are just fired up and passionate and locked into their vision and their sound. Does that kind of fall in line with the recording noteworthy history slogan you have?
Yeah, I think, it really does. It doesn't really matter, at least to me, it doesn't really matter what type of music it is. But, I just last week I worked with a cantor, doing, Jewish tunes. And it was totally cool. I had no idea what the words meant,
right?
But the music was good, and everybody was, nice people, and everybody was excited about what they were doing.
Just to go down a tangent, along those lines, I spend my days working from home at this very desk. I find listening to music in other languages and listening to music that's just instrumental is the best way to be productive, because sometimes lyrics, especially familiar ones, are distracting. But I was listening to a Mongolian throat singing band today. I don't know the words, which is fine because I'm not getting immersed in that. I'm just digging the background music. So maybe I should put on music from a cantor. I mean, I think it is Passover season. Seems appropriate.
You might enjoy it. I know I did. I really enjoyed the sessions. We did three sessions. Yeah. So and we got one more to go. So I'm looking forward to it.
You specialize in live recordings. Does that mean, pardon my ignorance, this may be a dumb question, does that mean full band all in the same room?
That's the way I like to do it. Maybe not in the same room, because here at the studio, we have a couple of ISO booths and things like that. But what it really means is the experience of doing, especially the rhythm section live. We may go back and put some horns on or put some strings on or something like that. But it's really the excitement of doing the rhythm section together and doing as much live as you can possibly do.
And for some artists, they're probably not as comfortable doing that if they've been recording in other studios or a different way. I mean, it's an old school approach, but I'm guessing not everyone is comfortable with it.
I think most people are, because they don't get a chance to do it that often anymore. I'm old school. I like to get everybody in a room, and you get here in the morning and you have nothing, and you get a bunch of people in a room and they're all bringing ideas, to the table. And it's just a very cool way. It's a very cool, organic way to work.
Talking about your old schoolness, how much do you lean into digital technologies or changing technologies? How important is that to the studio?
Well, we're like just about any other studio. We don't really do analog tape anymore. It's digital. I do have an analog 2-track that sometimes we mix down to, but it's primarily digital these days, and that's a far cry from where I started. I started on 2-inch tape and mixing down to 1/4-inch and 1/2-inch tape, and editing with a razor blade.
Uh-huh. It's funny. I mentioned Siren Records at the beginning of this podcast. They had an old reel-to-reel machine sitting out there when I was there with my son last week, and he said, "Dad, is that a reel-to-reel?" I said, "Well, yeah, like, of course." But I realized there's at least one generation, if not more, that have never even seen a reel-to-reel, a tape deck, or even had to think about it. But when I started in radio, that's what we used to edit phone calls and songs. And sure enough, grease pencil, razor blade. I'm sure muscle memory could get me through it if I had to do it again, but I'm personally glad I don't have to do that anymore.
I would have to say, people ask me all the time, "Hey, do you miss working on tape?" It's like, yeah, somewhere in the back of my mind, I miss it. But generally overall, I'm perfectly happy working in the digital domain, with a few pieces of nice outboard analog gear here and there. And pretty much that's what it is now.
I know your history goes way back. You started, I don't know if you started there, but you spent a lot of time in the early days at CRC.
Yes. That was my first and only gig. I started there in 1984.
Wow. Now, did you start with aspirations of being a musician, or did audio engineering always kind of speak to you?
I called myself a musician before I actually started at the studio. I played sax for 14 years. And then I realized that, hey, you might not be quite good enough to make any money at this. And I started recording bands in my hometown with just a pair of stereo microphones and a cassette deck. And they seemed to like it. And people were like, wow, that really sounds good. And I'm sure if I went back today and listened to it, it would sound horrid. But I figured, hey, this sounds like something I could maybe wrap my head around. And that's kind of where I went from there. I went to a so-called trade school, the recording workshop in Chillicothe, Ohio. Let's just say I'll never go back to Ohio again.
Okay. So I have a lot of musicians who, if they don't watch the live recordings, they'll listen to the podcast. What's the best advice you can give to a musician before, or a band, regardless of genre, before they walk into a studio? What's the best thing they can do before they start the process?
I would just say, just be prepared. You gotta be rehearsed, and you just gotta have your act together. You can't walk in. Once the clock starts, it really doesn't stop. So if you're not prepared when you get here and ready to go, you might as well just roll down your window and throw money out the window.
Right. That's when aspirations of a full album become a 7-inch single.
Yes. I would say so. So yeah, that's one of my main things, is just, I want people to be prepared when they come to the studio, have everything you need, extra strings, extra this, extra that, just make sure you have it, because, and especially me being down here on the South Side, it's not like Guitar Center or somewhere is right around the corner.
I should mention you're at 8043 South Stony Island in Chicago.
Yes, we are.
A fair distance from Guitar Center, perhaps. You also do festival audio, don't you?
Well, I don't do festival audio. I actually work for a company that does video streaming.
Oh, right on.
Well, I would say I did work for a company that did video streaming, since we didn't do any last year and it doesn't look like we're going to do any this year.
Fair enough. I didn't mean to open up any wounds, so to speak.
Oh, no. It's all good.
So how did business go for the past year? Did you find that it started to ramp up as the world kind of figured out how to navigate around the pandemic?
Well, I would say, I basically closed down for maybe 2 weeks. I didn't want the mayor to get mad at me or anything.
Oh, no.
So I basically closed down for 2 weeks and then figured, well, they've come out with a set of standards, the 6 feet and the wearing the mask. And, I'm like, if we follow that and we have, way more hand sanitizer and wipes and things that we probably should have been doing all along that we never really thought about, but I've got a lot of that on hand, and we've just been working.
Yeah. See, I kind of wondered if there'd be an increased value for bands to spend time in the studio, since no one could tour. Well, we've got songs. Let's at least commit them to tape. I wonder if that would speed or increase studio activity.
Well, we did have a fairly busy year last year, and I did notice that a lot of people seem to be recording. I mean, they didn't have anything else to do,
Right.
So why not, like you say, get into the studio and try and do something, and that kind of kept me busy, because with the lack of the other work, I was happy to be in the studio. So
Absolutely. All right. So Soundmine Studios, again, is 8043 South Stony Island. If people want to reach out, if they want to get quotes or just talk to you, do they just go to the website?
Yeah, we have a email on the website. I believe it's info@soundminestudios.net. And people that know me can call me directly on my cell phone. I'm not going to give that out, but people that know me can call me directly or send me an email. My email is dennis@absoluteaudioinc.com.
Right on. All right. Soundmine Studios. I love hearing about what you're doing. And I hope once I move past this vaccination world, I can come visit.
Oh, I'd love to have you come down. It's
I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but I'd love to come visit.
Oh, no. I really enjoy it when people come down, and I could talk audio all day, every day. You would think doing this every day of my life for the last 36 years that I would be tired of talking about it.
No, if you do what you love, it makes sense. Like I can talk about podcasting and broadcasting. It's just what I do. It's what I enjoy. I'm not digging ditches. You want to talk about it? Great. It's what I know.
Yeah, me too. And the same goes for listening to music. A lot of times, even after I put in a long day at the studio, I'll go home and listen to music.
Yeah.
And people ask me, they're like, how can you do that? It's like, well, because I like music. And when I go home, I can listen to what I want to listen to and not what I've had to listen to all day. Not that what I've been listening to all day is bad or anything, but hey, I can go home and relax and just chill out and listen to exactly what I want to listen to.
I love it. All right, Dennis, thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome.